Oh boy! All right, where to begin? They're 6-2. 6-2, Brian. To paraphrase Bill O'Brien, 6-2, Brian. AFC leaders. The Texans. I'll tell you what. The best quote I've seen today was from Cody Stutes from HoustonFootball.com. It wasn't easy, and seemingly never will be. Yes, Cody, you nailed it. It doesn't seem like this team just wants to make it easy, and yet they figure out a way to keep getting it done versus whatever the hell Anthony Richardson is. I don't know. Thanks to BetUS for sponsoring this video. I've got my towel from the game today, my Andre Johnson commemorative. Look, it's a little jersey. And I didn't get to hang out with a lot of. I saw a bunch of my former players doing various stuff during the day, but my game day responsibilities kept me from being down there at halftime, and I couldn't really hear Andre's speech. So we might watch that a little bit later in this live stream if I don't get too delirious from it. I'm stinky. It was hot out there. I'm exhausted. I just got back from KHOU. They screwed around with my web studio, and yet I'm not going to sit here. And talk about the Texans the way I have after almost every one of their victories this year, where there's so many things that you can't not ignore in victory that you would otherwise address in defeat. So I will address Kenyon Green. I will address Bobby Slowick, who I absolved from my anger just 48 hours ago, and yet my anger is back. And it can only be assuaged by the return, possibly, of Nico Collins and the trade for a competent guard. Except this matters whether Patterson gets. I don't think he's going to be healthy by Thursday night. But some good stuff today versus a quarterback in Anthony Richardson that I don't know what the hell he is, other than that. I have this conflicting emotion with an Anthony Richardson where at halftime I thought, well, they can't roll him back out there. The guy started off the game like 2 for 13. They converted 2 third downs today. You know what they were on third downs? They were 2 for 13 on third downs, and they came within a field goal of beating the Texans. That's I can't, and I don't like he extends drives with his legs, and he makes some incredible throws. That Josh Downs touchdown that was turned into a reception at the 1. That was an incredible throw. He made another incredible throw to the same spot in the end zone earlier in the game where I can't remember if it was Pierce or somebody else. It was A.D. Mitchell that just couldn't come down with it. Man, he makes some incredible throws, but he's turning Shane Steichen into an idiot as well. Just 48 hours ago, I was talking about how smart Shane Steichen is, and then he comes out and he passes 5 straight times. They're coming out of their end zone at the end of the first half. It's 3rd and 3. You haven't used a single. Like the Texans hadn't had to use a single timeout yet. You're going to pass yet again, and he throws a pick to Jalen Petrie. God bless him. Jalen Petrie's turning into a machine. And I know he got picked on that first Josh Downs touchdown, but whatever. And I think he's turned Shane Steichen's brain into mush because he doesn't know exactly how to handle him. The credit I will give to the Texans for turning Anthony Richardson into the worst version of himself. Listen, everybody, if you didn't watch this game, we're talking about a quarterback. This is true. He took himself out of the game because he was tired. He tapped out. He said, I'm tired, man. Can I get a blow on the sideline so Joe Flacco can come in and hand the ball off, and then we can kick a field goal? Just unbelievable. And that was only the 4th weirdest thing that happened today. So my conflicting emotion, though, is that at halftime I'm thinking, man, they gotta bench Anthony Richardson. So I should be more worried about Joe Flacco, who's been a better quarterback when he's had opportunities to play. And yet I'm terrified of Anthony Richardson, which is probably a little insight into why Shane Steichen left him in the game. I mean, the guy's thrown for over 50% once this year, and it was in a game in which he was 3 for 4, and he got injured, which is another recurring worry about Anthony Richardson. I'm fascinated by him. It's like when It's like when a new politician comes along and nobody knows what to make of him, and then all of a sudden he's in your life for like it's weird. It's really, really weird. I got to figure out what the hell Anthony Richardson is and how afraid I need to be of him. I'm afraid of Kenyon Green. So let's focus on the positive. Man, Patterson came in and did a good job. They had a touchdown drive as soon as Patterson came in, and then Patterson got his head knocked by a leg and was in the concussion tent, and then we're unlikely to see him again until the Lions game. They got to figure out something about what to do with left guard. Kendrick Green apparently is extremely low on the totem pole right now. They go into the Jets, and you're facing Quinnen Williams still, unless Quinnen Williams got injured today. But Quinnen Williams, the guy who knocked C.J. Stroud out for two games last year with a legal hit when Juice Scruggs was playing left guard, you're rolling into New York on Halloween night with Kenyon Green, who seemed to get it going a little bit better in the second half. He had a really bad. Remember last week when Bobby Slowick talked about how they want to get faster, get better coming out in the third quarter? Like one of the very first plays, and he cited that the offensive line got blown off the ball last week on the first play out of the third quarter. That first drive in the third quarter, Kenyon Green got blown back and was just he was just being tossed around all afternoon. So that's a concern. But remember, it's Andre Johnson Day. Andre Johnson towel. I'm gonna keep it. I'm all right for now. I'll get to your questions in a little bit, and then I want to react to CJ's press conference if we can get to it. The Texans did hit the under. I call it hitting the under because they're really good at hitting the under these days. Didn't cover the spread, but at BetUS you can get a 150% bonus on your first deposit. You can get a 125% bonus on your second and third deposits, all the way up to $2,000. So the one day I decided to just stop riding the under with the Texans and just bet on them. They didn't cover the spread. But that's neither here nor there. 6-2, Brian. AFC leaders. Okay, yeah, we'll get to Slowick. A child playing Madden could have done better than Slowick today. The pitch to Mixon. The pitch to Mixon where you got Robert Woods trying to block, Titus Howard trying to pull around Robert Woods trying to block, Mixon not being able to field the pitch, and then ultimately the play being called dead because Mixon happened to shove him down right after he gained possession. That was a weird play. That was one of the three weirdest things that happened today. Anthony Richardson not really trying to run out of bounds there on that final drive. Not even it was an afterthought, like after they'd already made contact. That was a weird one. The extra play being added at the end, that was really weird. CJ, let's get to CJ. I want to look at his final numbers because CJ has a way of, even on days where it doesn't seem like he's at his best, and especially when he's under duress, he still churns out good numbers. I mean, much better than 30% completion percentage. So CJ ends up 25 for 37 for 285 yards, sacked twice, long play of 49 yards to dig, 99.5 quarterback rating. Anthony Richardson, who'd started out the day, even when he was 2 for 8, he had like a 110 quarterback rating. Anthony Richardson ends up 10 for 32. I was being generous when I said 30% completion. 175 yards, long of 69, and one interception, lost one fumble. But CJ started off, I thought, uncharacteristically inaccurate, and then also a little too much appetite for risk. Maybe you'll talk about it in the press conference. That first pass to John Mechie into a sea of defenders. It was an errant ball. Maybe luckily, because that was an odd choice. It was an odd choice. When it comes to CJ working with Bobby Slowick, let me get rid of this gum. Look, they got the tight ends going. They got the run game going, not just by Joe Mixon brilliance, but some actually good blocking in the second half that included some good doses from Cade Stover. There were also some odd moments in pass protection by the tight ends. There was one spot where, I don't know if you guys saw it, because CJ ended up completing the pass, but Quentin Toriano and Tegan Cotoriano, not Quentin Tarantino, Tegan Cotoriano and Cade Stover were both lined up on the left side of the line, and they were going to double the defensive end. The defensive end just looped right around Cade Stover, just completely unblocked. So that was a weird moment. There were a couple other moments where even after CJ sharpened up, that he just didn't look as sharp as he did, say, versus even the Bills game. Remember, in the Bills game, there were a couple plays where there was a free rusher, but it was because Agumbawale just released immediately, and then CJ was able to arc it over the defensive end, the free rusher, and hit him for a couple of really nice gains. In the second half, they tried that, and it was either an errant throw or an errant route by Agumbawale. So he just wasn't as sharp as typical, but he's also under duress the entire time. The pass protection right now, as I explained it via Twitter X, it's trying to explain what's wrong with it. It's like trying to explain what it would be like if I performed heart surgery. Like if I just walked in off the street and said, "Yeah, who am I cutting open today?" And to be clear, to set the stage here, I was pre-med for like 3 weeks my freshman year in college. Nobody would know where to start. They'd come in and they'd be like, "The guy didn't know what he was doing. There was blood all over the place. It was a mess. He looked like he'd never been to medical school at all." And then somebody would say, "Oh, yeah, he's never been to medical school." And I'm like, "Well, who the hell let him into the operating room?" And they'd say, Bobby Slowick. Bobby Slowick let him in the operating room, and that's why your patient, CJ Stroud, is dying on the table. CJ takes so many hits that look like old school NFL quarterback hits, like Jim Kelly standing in the pocket and getting blasted in the back. Like the kind of stuff that kept quarterbacks pretty much good until they were 32 or 33 years old. We cannot, no matter where the Texans go this season, they cannot allow CJ to be subject to this much physical punishment. And yes, the guy that is losing a lot of physical matchups is Kenyon Green. Something needs to be done about that. I don't know if he's physically capable of being a good NFL guard. The other 4 guys on that offensive line, I think, are already or are capable, when I talk about Juice Scruggs, of being good offensive linemen in the NFL. But they just look unaware at times. They look like they are without answers or unsure of themselves. Some of it starts with poor technique or, at the very least, poor cohesion. They seem like they are wearing blinders. They readily abandon wide open spaces to go try to take out somebody's ribs and allow a looper or a late blitzer to come through. The one thing that I'd like to see Bobby Slowick, if he's not going to be able to scheme good pass protection or coach it up right, I'd like to see more of what we've started to see a little bit, which is a credible quick game and getting the tight ends involved, which we've started to see smidgens of here in the last few weeks. Like when you've got 2 things: 1, delayed blitzes; 2 is the simulated blitzes where everybody's up at the line of scrimmage. A good quick game can take care of a lot of that. Like when you've got all those linebackers up at the line of scrimmage, there are weaknesses behind the line of scrimmage. Those linebackers cannot get out to the flats quickly enough. And there's opportunities there, and I just don't think they're exploiting them enough. So if Stephon Diggs can't play and Nico Collins isn't eligible to return until the Lions game, I don't see an avenue by which they perform well offensively next week unless they really start spreading the ball around more and develop a quicker passing game, an up-tempo game, whatever it might be. But I've run out of answers. I was talking to Brandon Scott this afternoon, and he said, "Hey, look, they keep saying, Nick Caserio, Bobby Slowick, everybody else keeps saying that you've got to, by midway through the season, that's how you kind of learn who you are as a team." And where the Texans are as a team right now, where their strengths and weaknesses are, a lot of it doesn't lie in pass protection. Some of it lies in just Nico Collins and his return. So fingers crossed, no news is good news for now until we get up past this Jets game when Nico Collins is going to be eligible to return from injured reserve. We'll see. As far as the positives, more positives, I got stuck on Kenyon Green and Bobby Slowick. Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, and Tim Settle. This defensive line, I did not expect to think that Tim Settle would turn into a steady 1 sack per game machine like he has. But the Texans got 5 sacks today, couple there at the end when they were really critical. Will Anderson was celebrating the final sack of the game while the play was still going on, but then he ended up recovering the fumble on that play. So that ended up being a really good moment. Danielle Hunter had 2 sacks. Will Anderson had 1. Tim Settle had 1, and I believe it was Jake Hansen. Which brings me to Devin White. Devin White ended up playing meaningful snaps and showed up. Yeah, this is true, by the way. I don't know if there was any skepticism of that. Anthony Richardson did just say that he got tired, and that's why he took himself out of the game. The Colts quarterback said he got tired, and that's why he was out of the game, because he was tired. So there's that. That's a positive. If you've come here via the algorithm, Colts fans, you'll find no comfort here. You'll find no solace. We'll pile on Anthony Richardson the same way I know all of you are up in your hovels. With your 3G internet, whatever the hell's you have up there in Indiana. Just joking, kids. So the pass rush and Will Anderson specifically, Will Anderson has turned a corner both figuratively and literally. He's become much more of a guy that can attack edges and run the hoop and turn the corner and get to the quarterback while still having that power element to his game. So that's been really nice to see, because he's got to be sitting on. He doesn't have 7.5 sacks already, does he now? Midway through the season. It's really good. Devin White is freaking awesome. This isn't a safe space. It's not. It's not at all. We need more receivers. I know. This is you traded for Stephon Diggs. You traded for Joe Mixon. I think the Joe Mixon, other than his injury, has been a smashing success, because without Joe Mixon, I mean, you're looking at a 500 team, right? Maybe a sub 500 team. A lot of these close games still would have been close, but without Joe Mixon, and especially once Nico Collins went out, that's dicey. Now, you're also, while not firing on all cylinders offensively, your defense has, I think people perceive it as an insult, but it's almost like a no-name defense. Where a lot of the guys, like Will Anderson, these last few weeks has really started pouring it on. Jalen Petrie has come up with big plays, but it's not like you've got a slew of all-pro performances or maybe even Pro Bowl performances out of a ton of guys on that defense, and yet by their swarmy nature, they're playing their butts off, and it's really cool to see, and it's going to have to be a strength, obviously, against the better teams. Like, they're going to have to win some potentially 13-10 teams when they face the better teams. I feel a lot more confident about their ability to do it this year than I did before. The big plays popped up again today in a way that was manageable, but Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson with their legs were more consistently threatening. You had the huge throw to Downs. You had another big throw to Downs. I think Downs had the 2 biggest passing plays of the day for the Colts. But I just feel a lot better about their ability to play sound, clean football on the back end. Kamari Lassiter and Derek Stingley, their ability to make plays on balls. Who am I missing here? Jalen Petrie. This is where the long day is going to start coming in. But anyway, let's see. Yeah, Devin White was nice to see. I think they got to use him in a selective way and kind of bring him along. But it was cool to see him out there so fast. Here, this needs somebody to bring me back to positivity. Guys, we are winning. We are a second-tier team at the moment, and we can improve. Yes, it's more fun to be a homer than a complainer. We are real contenders, warts and all, Super Bowl champs. LFG Bubba. And that's a big if though, right? Like there's nothing about this team where I don't think that they can step up to the proverbial next level. And a lot of it just simply does have to come back to the return of Nico Collins. It really does. And that sounds like, all right, that's just like hitting the easy button. Sure, I'll hit the easy button all day long. It's like same as the rules in warfare. There's nothing. You don't have to make it harder than it needs to be. You figure out a way to get better weapons and more people and beat your foe. And in this instance, Nico Collins is our F-16 fighter. Like all of a sudden you got fighter jets. The enemy doesn't look so tough. It looks so tough there. Lamar Jackson. Well, maybe Lamar Jackson does. I can't wait to watch that Browns game. Jameis pulling it out. Jared Patterson. Oh, we were talking about defense on that part of it. I think I called him Jacob earlier too, so apologies for you. Stop giving Slowick more excuses. What's wrong with you people? Am I one of those people you're talking about? I'm getting grumpy about Bobby right now. I vacillate with Bobby. We have a on-again, off-again relationship. Did you notice how Tank Dell came alive after Diggs was hurt? Is Diggs or was he affecting Tank's game possibly? That's interesting. Who should I have on to talk about Tank Dell? I'd like to have I'm going to have somebody on to talk specifically about Tank Dell and go over some plays with him and exactly what he is and isn't doing. And I think right now, at least part of it is, I know there's times where I think a little bit of his size is starting to catch up to him without having Nico Collins out there to offset some of the more aggressive coverage. You think about that game, the play last week at the end of the game where they were expecting to see 3 deep coverage. Bobby thought he was going to see cover 3, and they end up just coming up to the line and pressing, or at least playing man on Tank. I think there's maybe more of that going on. A guy like Tank, needs somebody to offset some of his weaknesses just because of his size. And Nico just is the straw that stirs the drink. I think that's pretty obvious by now. And then the other thing with Tank too is that I think for the deeper stuff, you're going to need you don't necessarily have that same ability to throw some of the riskier tight window throws or the honey hole and cover 2 throws to Tank the way you can to Nico Collins. So having Nico out there changes a lot. And I know that Tank hadn't really gotten going before Nico got back, but I'm concerned about how sluggish the passing offense is in total right now. I'm not overly nervous about Tank Dell, and if he gets that touchdown to the Patriots last week, if he gets that touchdown versus the Patriots, I don't want to say it's a completely different story. Because it wasn't like he was super productive. Thanks for the cheers for the accurate score predictions. I was close, but I told you guys to take the under. And you did a little the little prop builder in the parlay there or something. Good job. All right, don't even get me started on Mixon. Freaking savage. Yes. So, in terms of the positives, thank you for keep pulling me back to the positives. The Texans are 6-2, by the way. The Texans are 6-2, but we are humans by nature, and humans by nature have a negative bias. You seek out the threats and the dangers. That's how we've sustained ourselves and thrived as a species. And far be it from me to go against what's coded into our DNA, which is to complain about pass protection, damn it, when pass protection is an issue. That is the lion lurking in the darkness that is going to come and maul us while we sleep in our huts at night, okay? I will not be non-human in this regard. I mean, sloths have done pretty well for themselves, too. They've probably, not right at the moment, but they've been around a long time. Alligators are kind of lazy. But still, you get my point. Humans, for us, this is what works. So back to the positivity. Joe Mixon. So Joe Mixon, the whole thing about Joe Mixon versus, let's say, Jonathan Taylor today. So Jonathan Taylor runs for 105 yards. They had knocked him back down below 100 for a little bit, but he got up to 105. Wow. Oh, I didn't realize it was this close. So you go into this game and it felt like, okay, this isn't rocket science. This is which quarterback plays better and which running back plays better. And in a lot of ways, I was more concerned about the running backs than the quarterbacks because let's be honest, Anthony Richardson is a running back. So it's allowed to throw trick plays every now and then. With less, Derrick Henry's Derrick Henry's got a really good career passer rating, if I'm not mistaken. He's had some nice passes against the Texans. That's a running back that knows how to throw the damn football and make good decisions with the football. Derrick Henry's had a jump pass. So Joe Mixon, 25 attempts for 102 yards. The big difference would be that Jonathan Taylor had more chunk yardage overall, 5.3 yards per attempt. Joe Mixon, 4.1. But I don't think, and I heard Sean Pendergast and Clint Sterner talking about this, I don't think you can account for the energy and the ferocity that Joe Mixon brings. You saw Joe Mixon. I was able to watch some of the TV copy after the game, and Joe Mixon went into the tent while they were examining Patterson. Like there's a dog, the dog has been overused by certain members of the Texans in describing very non-dog-like people, including potentially himself. But like Joe Mixon is that. Like he is in the circle of swarm. Grinds out yardage where other backs would have been tackled for no gain or a loss. And he brings a presence to him and kind of a ferocity to him. That's exactly what I think a lot of this offense is missing. I think there's young players on that offense who are puppies and have the chance to develop into dogs. I thought we saw that version of Cade Stover at times today. Cade Stover had one of the most impressive blocks I've seen out of any Texans offensive player when he kicked out that dude, threw him out of the bar. That was nice. And then on that run after the catch today, he's shown a lot of ability there. Like when he gets out into the secondary and he's running down the field, he's something to be reckoned with and possibly make a decision about if you're a defensive back. So he's got potential. I think that with time, Juice Scruggs has that potential. I think that there's a lot of finesse guys. Like Dalton Schultz tries his little butt off the block. He's just not good at it. And sometimes he succeeds. Sometimes it's a mess. CJ Stroud is a dog. I would say a Gumbawale dog. We're talking offensive dogs here. The wide receiving core in general. I don't fault Robert Woods or Stephon Diggs or Tank Dell when they can't get a block in the run game or they're not successful in it because they're trying their asses off, and there are a lot of instances of when they do it well. But Joe Mixon's he's the spirit of all of the good that's on that offense right now, and I'm really happy he's on this year's team. Tommy Townsend, not a dog right this moment. He has moments. Farmer Gronk getting it done. I think you said former here, but I know you meant farmer. Voice to text probably. He doesn't like that comparison because I think when they first made that comparison, he knew that, look, Gronk was a hell of a blocker. Like Gronk could have bulked up and played offensive tackle, and Stover knew at that point that he wasn't that guy yet. If he becomes a blocker like that, and I think he has it in him, then maybe that becomes a more apt comparison. I think he compared himself to Shockey, was who he wanted to try to be like, which is good. That's a historical reference from a guy that was in watching football since he was a young kid. Because we're old enough now. Yeah, that's right. We're old enough now that Shockey is that's almost getting to be a deep cut. If you know if you remember watching Shockey. Let's see. Oh, okay. So trade deadline. That'll be the last thing. So before we get to CJ, and then I've got so many notes and they're all over the place. I've got 3 different binders. I've got a computer open, a different computer than this one in front of me. The trade deadline is November 5th. Cooper Kupp is an object of desire, and I'm seeing on there some people are. I haven't seen this yet because I've had my head down and I haven't checked any updates. I don't know if there's speculation about an ACL for Stephon Diggs right now. I just saw it mentioned a couple times, but I don't know if that was fear or not. But it's November 5th. A guard is, yes. I think before this game, I would have said they should be looking and seeing if there's any guards out there that are available for trade. I'm kind of disappointed that the Browns might be, I don't know where they're at. Like if they show more juice this week also with Jameis Winston in there, who knows? They might not be sellers at the deadline. So here we go. Let's get our friend CJ Stroud up here. And I'll probably cut this for later, so bear with me while I do a little bit of intro to this. You guys watch the way the inadequate, imperfect sausage is made. There we go. All right. CJ Stroud, after a 23-20 victory over the Indianapolis Colts, spoke to the assembled media. We'll see if we can hear the questions. If not, I'll try to recite them to you. But here is our friend CJ Stroud.
Well, CJ, can you walk us through your thought process as you guys went through the progressions after losing Stephon Diggs, and how important was it to find players like John Metchie and Richardson late in the game?
Okay, what was your thought process after losing Stephon Diggs? How important was it to find guys like Xavier Hutchinson and John Metchie later in the game?
Yeah, prayers go out to Steph and him, and God doesn't make any mistakes. So, I hope he's okay. I don't know what's going on yet, but I'm praying for him and hoping that he starts to feel better. So and just want to give all glory and praise to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ first and foremost. I forgot that part, but man, it's not easy seeing him go down like that. I hope he's okay, but I thought Metch and Hutch did a great job. Trying to, be better. I mean, not be better, but step up to the plate and play really well, just like Steph was. So I just, I'm really proud of those dudes. And, they got to step up big for us in a couple of days here.
So to address something, in the live stream, somebody had said, where is this? Son of a bitch. You guys are commenting so fast. Okay, here we go. Dino, the Texans have one of the deepest wide receiver rooms across the league. The receivers are not a problem. They had one of the deepest wide receiver rooms across the league. Right now, they're without Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins. So currently, they're not one of the deepest wide receiver rooms in the NFL. We really genuinely have no idea exactly where Nico Collins is in his recovery. We thought that Christian Harris had no big deal of an injury not too long ago. Oh, wait, no, it was a long, long time ago. Back in August, we thought it was no big deal with Christian Harris. So I'm trying to stay optimistic about that. And then if Stephon Diggs is out, no, it's not a deep wide receivers room. So it's very, very, very possible that they're going to be looking, depending on what happened with Stephon Diggs, to trade for a wide receiver.
You knew you had things to correct after the loss of the Packers, and obviously you guys did a great job of it today. This, we knew, was a huge game because if you lost the game, you're technically tied with the Colts, but now you got a 2-game lead. How big is that?
It's huge. It's they're always a tough opponent. Divisional games are some of your hardest games. So when you can find a way to win, we clean up some things. We got a lot of other things to clean up as well. But I definitely know that. We're a heck of a football team, and we just got to keep putting it on film. And, once we, figure out the little kinks and things that we need to figure out, I think, we're going to be rolling.
So you basically have a 3-game lead on the Colts right now just because you've swept it for only the second time. First time since 2016 when Brock Osweiler swept the Colts. I can't remember if Brock played in both those games or not. I remember he had one really nice pass late in one of those Colts games. So right now the Texans are 6-2. You've got the AFC North where the Steelers are 5-2, the Ravens are 5-3. You've got the Chiefs at 7-0, and then you've got the Bills at 6-2. So the fun thing about that is that you get a chance to play all of the division leaders except the Steelers, but the Ravens have just played one more game than the Steelers right now. And you beat the Bills. That was before they had Amari Cooper, and that was when they were without Shakir as well. But the Texans had injuries as well. So I'm not going to play that game too much. Oh my God, the AFC East, second second, third, and fourth place. The Dolphins, the Patriots, and the Jets, 2 and 5. They're all either 2 and 5 or 2 and 6. And look, this is where too some of the way this schedule looked at the beginning and the quarterbacks you're going to have to face. You've got old Zach Wilson with the Jets, and he's you've got the Jets coming up, the Dolphins, which looked way more formidable at the beginning of the year, and then they looked awful, but now they've got Tua back. So we'll see exactly what that looks like when it comes up. But you've still got your games against the Jaguars, 2 games against the Titans. You still have some, I don't want to call them patsies on the schedule, but the ones that loom large are the Dolphins, the Ravens, the Lions, obviously, and the Chiefs. That's where you're really going to find out about it.
Actually, late in the game, you found Tank at the end of the second quarter for a touchdown. How big was it to get him rolling today after a tough week last week and getting his confidence up?
I don't know if you could hear that or not, but I was asked about getting Tank Dell involved, getting him active, and how important was that to help for his confidence, et cetera.
Oh yeah, I think he had a great mindset coming into the week, just getting better. Owning his ops, and I thought he did a great job of that. He ran a lot of good routes today, and me and him are really close, and we just want to feed off one another, and it was good, just to get our mojo back going, and I'm just super proud of him and what he's been able to do, and he's gonna have to really step up big for us.
Yeah, and again, not to overly simplify it, but Nico Collins coming back, assuming he comes back and he's himself, that's huge. I think and I know that Tank wasn't really firing on all. He wasn't looking like his old self, even when Nico was here. But I'm confident enough that that's going to be at least part of the elixir for it. It's just we need Nico back. And some pass protection would be nice. If you want to see the best out of Tank Dell deep, they just need better pass protection.
You got a short week, Jets on Thursday. What are some things that you can take away from this game that you can build on, stack good moments from in order to not only get ready for the Jets on Thursday, but just to close out the season?
So you've got a short week, Jets on Thursday night. What are some things you can take from this game to build on for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I would say, just trust ourselves, stay aggressive. I think we can do a better job of getting 7 and not 3, and scoring touchdowns in the red zone. I think that's a big thing. I think, I thought our defense played really well, and, I'm not the coach, so I'm not going to say it, and I don't know everything. I haven't watched the film yet, but positive things, I feel like we can, keep running the ball really well. I think that's huge for us, and our play action pass is going really well. We can work on our drop back pass and things like that. But yeah, there's a lot of things to learn from and to get better at. So yeah, we got to just get ready because we're playing a really tough New York Jets team on Thursday.
I think honestly, some of the things that they did today, when they started getting the tight ends involved, when obviously, by necessity, they had to go to Hutchinson and Mechie, but we've seen Mechie start to come up and be a viable option. On that play last week at the end of the game, if CJ had trusted the protection better, he could have had John Mechie potentially for a touchdown on that play. But just CJ was trying to get rid of the ball quickly at that point. So that's encouraging. I think there are a lot of things that they need to be doing that start with Bobby Slowick right now. And combating some of the pass protection issues, yes, with better pass protection in and of itself, but the quick passing game, taking advantage of some of the weaknesses in defenses when they're all lined up in those simulated blitzes at the line of scrimmage. And they've started to add in steadier doses of it, and some of it's on CJ, I think maybe, and I think he's shown more willingness to get rid of the ball quickly or to check the ball down and understand just the way this offense is right now without Nico Collins and with the pass protection being what it is.
A couple more. Go ahead. Two-part question, CJ. First off, as you mentioned, only 4 days, you're playing.
Well, wait a second, James Clancy. Which take? Which one? Which take? My take? Explain yourself, Clancy. My God. You can't have a name like Clancy and not explain yourself.
Again.
Like, Tom Clancy reference.
One, how tough is that? And number two, the Jets are going to be really hungry because they got beat by the Patriots today.
Yeah, I would say, it's my first time playing on Thursday, so,
Wait a second. What did he say about the
I'm
Jets getting beat by the Patriots?
The Jets are going to be really hungry because they got beat by the Patriots today.
yeah, I would say, it's my first time playing on Thursday, so, I'm leaning on, leadership from older guys, and their biggest thing is recovery and, mentally straining on the game plan. So, it's a short week, but, it's, prime time football, got to be ready to play at a high level. And yeah, I believe that the Jets are going to be very highly motivated. They got a lot of weapons over there. One of the best quarterbacks ever to play, a big fan of his. Their defense, they have some really good corners. The D-line is really good. And, I think C.J. Mosley and Quincy Williams are two underrated defenders in this league. So, I mean, they're a great defense. We got to, be able to withstand the surge early and, just keep building and keep rolling.
Look, Thursday night games suck as a player. Just anytime you're on a short week. But there is a part of it that's kind of nice because, A, you barely practice. It's glorified walkthroughs the whole week. B, you got a little mini bye on the other side of it. And C, things are better in groups of 3. But other than that, there's not a lot good to it. It's just weird. You get out on the field and it feels like you shouldn't be out there. You have to keep reminding yourself, all right, I'm about to play an NFL football game. I'm stamping my feet here against really big dudes who are going to try to beat me and embarrass me. I need to be sure I got to get ready to go beat them and embarrass them. It's weird. You feel like you're in the Twilight Zone. Everything just feels a little off. And sometimes it's reflected in the quality of play or Al Michaels' voice. So please, CJ, if you care about old people, and it seems like you do, you seem like a genuinely solid young man, do this for Al Michaels, okay? Do this for Kirk Herbstreit. I don't want Kirk Herbstreit's experience as an NFL commentator to be forever soiled by the fact that he had to do Thursday night football on a streaming service and do low energy games because Thursday night football generally sucks. Don't do that. Not on Halloween.
Obviously, unfortunate that Steph went down today. Throughout the first 8 weeks, how much do you think the chat that you guys and the other receivers have, how much do you think that's helped integrate Steph up to this point?
Yeah.
All right, I'm sorry. I couldn't really hear. I think that's DJ Bieneme. Let's see.
Keep rolling.
Obviously, unfortunate that Steph went down today. Throughout the first 8 weeks, how much do you think the chat that you guys and the other receivers have, how much do you think that's helped integrate Steph up to this point?
I think it's something about how I couldn't hear what he said. The relationship between him and the other receivers. How much has that helped Steph? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think just the camaraderie, the brotherhood I see in that room is just kind of what I had in college, with Garrett, Chris, Jackson, Marv, Mac, and even all the way to Jupe, Sam Wickles, like our walk-ons, like everybody was close. And you kind of look at this team like that is, all the guys who are playing a lot, look out for the guys who aren't really playing as much, and they want to see those boys eat. So it's really cool to see. And I think, it's sad, but it's the worst part of our game is just injury. So, praying for Steph. I think he'll be okay, but I definitely know that no matter what, we got to be able to still win games, and I know he wants that for us at the end of the day.
You mentioned
Real quick. Okay, so Clancy was talking about you, BG. Okay, I feel better now.
the defense, on what could have been a really big momentum shift with the pick play. How big was it for your defense to go out there and have a 3-and-out and force another punt and give you guys the ball back at the end?
Huge, man.
There are some potentially really big momentum shifts, especially like the fumble that almost turned into a huge fumble return. How big was that for the defense to play like they did?
We got to be better as offense, and that can't happen. We can't turn the ball over down there. We got to find a way to just get on the ball or, just not do that. So, yeah, I'm fully aware, that that's a big mistake, and that could have cost us the game, you know what I mean? So we got to help. We got to play complementary football. We got to help the defense just like, when they help us, you know what I mean? So, yeah.
I think that, like that play there. Okay, bye, CJ. Okay, let me get him out of here. let you go, and then we'll play D'Amico in a bit. That play right there, I'm torn with Bobby Slowick because I think sometimes people will complain about Bobby Slowick's lack of creativity, and I don't think there's a lack of creativity at all. I think there's times where they rely on creativity too much, and there's gadgetry that works in the first half, but once they use up all their gadgetry, they're left without an ability to just do the down and dirty work, the actual blocking and all of that. And that's I think in some ways sometimes it's better with less gadgetry. And I don't know, I wish I'll read you texts from, I talked to a couple different offensive linemen this week. Oh, I don't have my phone on me. Here we go. Let's see. One of the offensive linemen in my O-line cabal who helps me, that was my college student asking for some money for food. Nope. Let's see. This is a long chain of texts he sent during the game today. I can't even get through all of them. Let's see. The offensive line. My God. Let's see. They just don't execute those screens very well as often as they seem to run them. I could be wrong. No, they don't execute the screens well, and they also, I think honestly, they forecast them. The screens are sniffed out so quickly. Okay, here we go. It's obviously, let's see, more complicated than that. I think Slowick from his time in San Francisco incorporates a lot more man into their zone game than some teams, but in pass protection, it's ridiculous. I think they have personnel issues, but I can't accept that there's not a coaching problem. Boy, the line is bad. This is basically just a stream of consciousness from him. I mean, GD, it's just basic stuff they can't hold up under. You got to be shitting me on that punt return. JFC, they are a sieve. Rough, it's just bullets blitz versus slide pro. LOL, WTF was Stover doing wrapping up Dell on that punt return. Giving up pressures in 7 and 8 man protection is not ideal. This is a long string of texts. It's bad. It's really, really bad, and it's more than just the physical ability of the players. With Kenyon Green, it's a physical ability issue. With others, it's not so simple. So that's where we are with that. Let me check your comments before we get to D'Amico. You know what? No, good. Because Eric doesn't. I don't think Eric's watching as much football as some of the other guys. The screen game sucks. Yes, yes. Whoever it is, I appreciate their blunt commentary. It's bad, man. It's so bad, and that's not even half of it. I can't wade through all of it just to isolate the O-line stuff. Let's see. Here we go. The Patriots coaches always talked about waiting until the second half to run gadget plays, so there's no way to react. I feel like without them, we have no spark, though. Yeah, that's where I am. I think there's times where they run gadget plays in the first half, and especially when they get down to the red zone where it's time to just line up and win your one-on-one matchups on the physical side of the game with blocking. I don't think they feel comfortable doing it. And I know it's kind of trite to say or maybe overly simplistic, but there's some of it that's just simply, man, you gotta spread it out more and get your tight ends out on routes faster, get your running backs out on routes faster. They've done that with Gumbawale at times. Gumbawale, I heard Tiki explaining scat protection today, which was good. I mean, there's times where the running back just lets that edge player go, and he turns immediately to be a receiving threat. And they've had success with that with Gumbawale at times. Today, it just didn't seem like either CJ was quite sharp enough or had the touch with it, but they weren't able to work that as well as they had in previous games. But yeah, I think some of the solutions have to come from almost just accepting that you are who you are when it comes to offensive line play right now. And I think the other side of it, too, is maybe Chris Strausser is the issue. Chris Strausser was a coach of the Colts when they had some good offensive lines. He was also there when they struggled there towards the end. But it's not like he's incapable of coaching good offensive line play. It's just they're not getting it done with this group right now, which makes me wonder maybe if it goes back to Bobby Slowick at the root of it all and exactly what their rules are, how they're coaching it, how they're communicating it. I don't know. But they're not there. And when you watch other teams in the NFL without a trained eye even, you can see the difference in the way this offensive line operates versus others. It was rumored that CJ was arguing with Slowick on the sideline at some point this game. I don't know about that, but I will say, when I went back and watched the TV copy real quickly, remember early in the game where CJ tried to throw an out and it was incomplete? Oh, it was when he tried to throw to Schultz and it was an inaccurate throw to Schultz on the sideline. And as Diggs was coming back, he kind of put his hands up like this. That play, CJ was getting pressure in his lap from Shaq Mason. Shaq Mason was getting bull rushed into him. Stephon Diggs, without seeing the all-22 yet, but I think Stephon Diggs might have been wide open for a really big, deep strike. But CJ didn't have time to really let it develop. He felt pressure and he got rid of it for what should have been a pretty easy catch. So I think it was a good decision. He just didn't make it. He had an errant throw. That was in that first quarter when he was still kind of off. He just wasn't quite dialed in the first quarter. He fought his way back from it. Yeah, he had Diggs wide open. But I don't know if I watched it real briefly, but I think it was a matter of just feeling the pressure and making the easy throw, which is that's what we're asking him to do under the current circumstances, right? If the pass protection is going to be imperfect, don't hang around when there's pressure trying to extend it if you have an easy option right then. So I'm okay with that. And again, without seeing where the safeties were on that play or anything, I'm glad that Diggs got going afterwards. I hope he doesn't have a torn ACL. I don't know what you do about my only experience with an offensive coordinator. I've seen several people mention the prospect of firing Bobby Slowick. I don't know what you do in season. My experience with it was when Chris Palmer was fired in our ill-fated 2005 season where we ended up going 2-14. I think that was the year they fired Chris Palmer and they put Joe Pendry in charge. And it didn't change anything. So there's a lot of viable options on the coaching staff right now. Gerard Johnson, Bill Lazor. I don't know if Ben McDaniels is one of those guys, but there's options for potential coordinators right now. But boy, remember Gary Kubiak? Gary Kubiak was a offensive-minded coach whose big struggle his first couple of years there was finding a good defensive coordinator. And I think he ended up having to fire guys that he liked and was close to. And that's when you turn the corner and become a genuine NFL head coach. When it's one thing to hire your buddies, it's another thing to fire them. And that'll be interesting, but I think it's an off-season discussion. I don't know. Give me some suggestions of times that coordinators were fired during the season and it worked out well. Whoa, the Bills last year. Joe Brady. They played better. I know Stephon Diggs wasn't happy about it. They can't bring in Joe Brady. Okay, so it worked. I didn't even need a suggestion from you guys, but please. John Ryan, did your seventh wife leave you? Is this a joke? Is that a reference to something? Wait, where are you? There you go. John, please tell me that's a joke. For so many reasons that I'd have so many questions. Like I'd say after 4, I'm done, man. If I were on my 4th wife, there's no way in hell I'd get a 5th. And it's just, or maybe, I don't know, man. You do you. You do you. No way he's fired. I think Slowick will retire his play calling versus the Jets. I don't know if you meant to you. I don't know what you're trying to say. Or are you saying they're trying to, anyway, like in the conventional old, I'm not a quitter, brother. Now I need to interview you for the podcast. Oh, Gerard Johnson was yelling at Kenyon Green for not blocking for CJ. 8 times the I am invested in this. John, I'm going to write this down, and then I'm going to lose the note. But if I don't, I want to revisit this on like a Wednesday afternoon. If you're on your 7th wife. My dad got married. My dad was married how many times? Oh, just 3. I thought that was a lot. And he made a good go of it with the 3rd one. It lasted like 20 years. But then she just, then she'd had enough. If the O-line doesn't improve, we won't see Seth with a perm. What was the promise there that I never agreed to? That if they win the Super Bowl, I'll get a perm? I'd have to grow my hair out. It would be in February, so it'd be better. But I'm keeping it high and tight, man. Better tighten up quick. Yeah, they face a challenge this week versus the Jets. But I'm excited about it. They got 3 primetime games in a row. They got the Lions, where maybe, boy, I got to watch that game too. The Lions game would be when Nico Collins is eligible to return from IR. So seeing Joe Mixon and Nico Collins out on the field together for the first time since Indy, that appeals to me. So I'm not sitting here quaking in my boots over the Lions or anything like that, but it's a challenge, obviously. So I'll get a perm. My wife will hate me for it, but I'll get a perm. Maybe she won't. That'll take her back to the late 80s. Maybe get a perm with a mullet attached, because I know that's possible. That's popular these days. If we win the Super Bowl, I'll go with you for the perm. Yes. You're a glutton for punishment if you're getting married that many times. I like that you wrote it, gluten for punishment. Like you've got celiac, and he keeps marrying women who aren't sympathetic to his celiac disease. She was a damn good cook too. Lions is battle red. Oh, okay. This reminds me. I'm reading. You know what I'm reading right now? Because I was watching. For anybody who's just joining us, look, we're about to come up on an hour here. We're gonna stray from the Texans for just little precious moments here and there. Where's my book? Where's my damn book? It's that Truman Capote book about the real murder out in Kansas. I'm like 25 pages into it, and I'm freaking hooked, man. It is good. But because I've been watching Only Murders in the Building, and that's how I know I'm old, because that's definitely an old person show, but I love it. I think it's awesome. Steve Martin and Martin Short. But it's a show about these people that are doing a true crime podcast. And I'm like, I'm going to go back to the original true crime stuff. And it's really good. So highly recommend the book whose name I can't remember right now. The Jets. Oh, by the way, we're going to have on the show tomorrow, we're only on from 6 to 8 in the morning, but the Thursday night football people are going to be there filming Sean and I, and they're going to want us to basically talk about the Jets a little bit. So I got to do my crash course Jets prep probably after I get off this live stream. And so listen for that. We're going to try to not make it sound forced, but they're probably going to have some talking points they want us to hit, but they want to sound, they want to film us doing the organic sports talk. So we'll probably be focusing in heavily on the offensive line versus the Jets defensive line, specifically one Quinnen Williams, who I don't know if you guys remember or not, was kind of a literal headache for the Texans last year. He just beat the snot out of Juice Scruggs when Juice Scruggs was playing left guard, made a clean hit on CJ. CJ was concussed for the next couple of weeks, and Quinnen Williams is still a really good defensive tackle. The left guard situation is still one that people don't feel good about. Ironically enough, the guy that may have been an improvement, definitely was for at least one series today, Patterson, himself has a concussion. Thank you, irony gods. Thank you. Our offense is not smooth and lacks momentum and synergy. Our defense has kept us on track. Yep. Agree. And I think the defense is getting steadily better, I think. And, without going into which quarterbacks or which offenses they played, it's a lot cleaner than when Kenyon, then, Lassiter was a raw rookie. I think Jalen Petrie is really coming into his own, notwithstanding the pick today that ended up freeing the long touchdown. But Petrie is just, man, he makes up for it, doesn't he? Like he got picked on that play, lets up a long touchdown, but he has the game-winning interception basically at the end of the first half. Nobody told me the name of the book that I'm reading. Been eating TV dinners for almost 3 years since my husband, the great cook. Oh, I'm sorry. And I'm sorry, M. Gentles. For some reason, I always thought you were a man. Probably because you argue like a man. You're too damn, yeah. It does some weirdish. But I'm sorry about your husband. Yeah. And listen, you know what, M. Gentles? One thing I've discovered is this is my key to cooking. Because you just need to know a few little dishes and maybe learn how to grill a little bit. But this is a secret. This is a secret that a lot of white people don't realize about cooking. You can just throw pretty much any spice in there and it doesn't matter. I have every day for lunch, this is what I have. I chop up some vegetables, whatever I have, and then I saute them. Then I put some eggs in, and then I literally pick spices at random from the cabinet and dump them in there until it's all very colorful and pretty. And I have yet to find a combination that I don't like. It's gotten to the point now where I've started to try to mix stuff that doesn't seem like it should go together in there to see if I don't like it. And it's awesome. It's awesome. That's all. It's just and it tastes so much better. It's cheaper for you than frozen food. You'll end up really, really enjoying it, M. Gentles. And please tell me what your first name is at some point. I always thought it was Marcus or something. Why was Kendrick Green not put in? That's a good question. He looked upset on the sideline. I'm going to tell you that much. He looked, especially when, I think it was one thing when Patterson went in, okay, but then when Patterson gets injured and then you put Kenyon Green back in, that's like if John Ryan's seventh wife was like, the guy that I left you for, I'm going back to him because my God, I thought marriage was bad, but this, God, I got to meet these women that are marrying John Ryan. I want to have a sit down with John Ryan and his 7 wives. Oh, did Bobby look sad? Oh, okay. Palate of a toddler? No. Refined palate. I'll do recipes, Roger. I'm just saying, it doesn't matter, man. It's people overthink it. Look. I'm not going to bow down to Big Recipe. Big Recipe, they've got their hooks into you. They think that you gotta, oh no, I need to buy cookbooks. I gotta go to these websites where they tell a story that's like 3 pages long before they get to telling you how to cook the stuff. Yes, recipes are great, but don't be a slave to the recipes, all right? Don't be a sheeple. Just stand up for yourself and just dump some shit in there. Yes, I'm going to answer this question. They should trade for a guard. What's your Subway order? I have not been to Subway in many, many years, mostly because the one close to me is under new management now, and it's not a top-notch Subway. So I haven't been to Subway in a long time. You know what I hadn't done in a long time? This is the power of advertising. Even when this is what I always tell my advertisers when I give a crappy live read. Look, I had a quarter pounder with cheese 2 days ago. First time I've had a quarter pounder with cheese in maybe 3 years. You know why I had a quarter pounder with cheese? Because I had read the reports about the food contamination and the food poisonings from quarter pounder with cheese. And I did the math in my head, and I'm like, it's like 100 people. But man, I can't stop thinking about that quarter pounder with cheese. I kind of miss quarter pounders with cheese. So when I got a quarter pounder with cheese, if the brand's strong enough, and it wasn't as good as I remember it. It's never as good. It's like when you have SpaghettiOs as an adult. You're like, oh, this isn't how I remember it back when I didn't know what actual good pasta was. Okay, Mary. Thank you, Mary. I will try to remember this. That's a good name to remember. My kids always said I'd wind up on the porch with a shotgun on my lap against all comers. Okay, good. Thank you, Mary. I didn't want you to get insulted when I said you argue like a man. I meant that as a compliment in a jokingly backhanded way. But yeah, like you don't couch your opinions. Although you seem informed usually when you do disagree with me, which is not like it's hit or miss with men whether they're informed or not when they disagree with other men. In Cold Blood, yes, that's the name of the book. Thank you. In Cold Blood. My God, it's good. What a writer Truman Capote is. Oh, you know who else? You guys know read my first Jane Austen book a few months ago. Told ND, ND Kalu was an English major at Rice, and I texted him. I was like, ND, listen, don't laugh. You gotta read Pride and Prejudice, and he laughed. And I'm like, I'm serious, man. That she can spin a yarn, that Jane Austen. Amityville Horror. Okay. Let's see. Triple cheeseburger is the way I go if I order from Mickey D's. Don't believe I've ever had top-notch Subway. No. I haven't. You know what? Honestly, I'm not a snob about food, but ever since I started cooking a lot more at home, it's hard for me to enjoy like chain restaurant food because there's almost nothing that's better than just a simple, like I'm a basic bitch when it comes to my cooking ability, but it's always better than fast food. So it's so I don't go to, it's not like I look down on eating fast food or anything. I'm lucky enough to be able to just be at home a lot and cook on my own. And my wife cooks a lot, so we're lucky. The kid's getting better at it. Come to New Mexico and get a green chili cheeseburger. Okay, I will. All right, let's see. Back to football. We're done with Truman Capote. We're back to football. Dipped below 400 people. Let's see. What do you think are the reasonable options to fix the O-line? All right. 1, trade for Bitonio, but now the Browns look like they might not be sellers or some guard out there. 2, Patterson, maybe Patterson's an option. The one thing I noticed about Patterson when he was in today, and I thought he had some really good snaps. I saw a couple that I want to go back and watch again. I don't think he was like a transformative force or anything necessarily, but he's got length and he uses it. The thing I worry about with Kenyon Green right now is there's times where he's not even getting his hands into the defender. And then, like it's great that he's got this leaner body and he's sleeker, but he just doesn't look like he has the leverage and strength that even in his rookie year, I thought he did. And I hesitate to recommend gaining weight or anything, but there's just something where it doesn't look like he has necessarily enough just ballast in his butt. So there's that. And then there's on the mental side of things, there's times where he just either looks a little bit uncomfortable or uncertain, or he's not on the same page as the other guys. There's times where like everybody else is blocking outside zone and he's blocking inside zone or vice versa. So I don't know what's going on there, but I think perhaps Patterson, just by being steadier, whether he ends up being a really good guard or not, I think he's probably a better option. But he's got a concussion and I don't think he's going to be I'd be really surprised if he's available by Thursday. Like I don't even know. I mean, I know guys have been cleared for Thursday games before. You got to be able to return to football activities first and be symptom-free afterwards. So maybe their practice on Tuesday, which is just like a glorified jog through. Listen, man, I'm a grumpy old man in a lot of ways, but I have no appetite to see guys come back quickly from concussion anymore. We had Gary Walker on the pregame show today, and Gary at one point, he stood up. Like we were having a fun conversation, but we started talking about the way defensive linemen are allowed to play or not allowed to play the game today. And he said, I got to stand up when I start talking about this. I can't watch some of this stuff that's going on now. So we're grumpy old men. Gary's a couple years older than me. We're turning into grumpy old men. I feel the same way. But when it comes to concussions, I'm like, man, no, I don't want to see Patterson out there Thursday night. But I also don't want to see CJ get concussed. So right now, the option for Thursday is that either Kenyon Green has some kind of transformative revelation. Remember, Bob Dylan was just kind of like an average like guitar plucker and harmonica blower and like a okay folk singer, and then he went off and like hung out with Woody Guthrie for a little bit and just went off on like some basically journey, and he came back and he was this transformed creature that became one of the greatest singers of the century, in terms of either, at least, non-classical music. And that's what I need from Kenyon Green. Basically, he needs to go off and do peyote with some great old offensive lineman out in the desert and figure it out sometime between now and tomorrow at 3 p.m. So we'll see if that happens. Yeah, if they trade for, I don't think that they're going to be able to trade. I don't know if they're going to be able to trade for Bitonio, but somebody else is out there. I tell people I read, but I listen to audiobooks. Roger, I try to be transparent about that. And I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I'm trying to read more because I realized I was getting on a stretch where I was just doing nothing but listening to audio, and there's it's just different. It's different than the experience of reading. So if I really, really like a book on audio, then usually what I'll do is buy the book and then reread the actual book on paper, and then realize that I had missed a whole lot while I was listening to the audiobooks. Oh, that was an earlier comment. No wonder. Do midseason trades for O-line even happen? I can't think of any. Seems like a position that needs a while to gel with teammates. Right, it does. And yet, the one nice thing about running a Kubiak-Shanahan system is that there's a whole lot of guys out there with familiarity with it. And, they're all different, but there's carryover with the terminology. And even if the play calls are different, you're still dealing with West Coast verbiage, and it's like the languages are structured the same. So it's like, if you learn French, it's a lot easier to learn Spanish or any of the other Latin Romance languages. Where if you learn French, it doesn't help you for squat for learning Chinese. This is all, you bring somebody into this system, if they've been in a West Coast system, then it's a little bit easier. And then some of it at left guard right now is, hey, these guys aren't on the same page or dialed in mentally to begin with. So I'd rather take a good, solid veteran guard that can stand up in one-on-one pass pro and figure out the rest as he goes along, and maybe be a resource for Juice Scruggs and Titus Howard or Laramie Tunsil and whomever else. So very few barriers in my mind right now to not trade for. Very few barriers to trading for an offensive line. Continuity be damned. Continuity is nice, but ask John Ryan about his 7 wives. Is he happy about the fact that he's on a 7-wife streak? No, the continuity means nothing if there's no substance behind it. I want John Ryan to power rank his wives. I want Trent Williams. We need 50% fewer Kenyon Greens. I was thinking about today during the game when I was thinking about Laramie Tunsil and the 2 first-round picks that they traded to get Laramie Tunsil. That, oh yeah, hey, look, you could have traded for 2 more Kenyon Greens. If you drafted, let's say if you didn't trade those 2 first-round picks for Laramie Tunsil, you still would have had to find a left tackle in a year where, by the way, the year before they could have traded for, was that the same year or the year before? They could have traded for Trent Green for a 3rd-round pick. But that's neither here nor there. You would have had to spend at least a 1st-round pick trying to find another left tackle, and then another 1st-round pick if you tried to find a left guard. And the chances are you wouldn't even be in the situation you're in right now. So it's all a crapshoot, damn it. So I'm gonna tap out, or I'm gonna start talking about Truman Capote again. Plus, I have to produce a short for BetUS. Thanks to BetUS for sponsoring the video. Please like, subscribe. It's gonna be a quick week. I'll try to get a preview out for the Jets. I meant to do one last night, but I was flying yesterday, and United, you can go die because there was no internet on that flight, so I couldn't compile everything the way I wanted to. That's right. I'm making excuses. I'm no Bobby Slowick. Have a good one, everybody.